Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee on this Friday as we get ready to get rid of this storm system and get it out of the way so that we could start some nice weather here in the east and start to warm things up. But not today. We've got this pretty strong westerly flow here. Actually, the winds are more west-southwest across New Jersey and into southern New England, and they turn northwest as you go into Pennsylvania. And there's some colder air here, so there's some snow and some rain mixed. We've got some temperatures in a few places down in southwestern Pennsylvania in the upper 20s. So I would imagine in some elevated areas they're probably seeing some accumulation. The lighter shadings of blue here and some of the greens indicating some radar echoes. We also have some various flood warnings up for some of the rivers. And as we look up into upstate New York, we still actually have some flood watches going on across the areas bordering Lake Ontario and on up through north central New York, as there's still more precipitation to go there for them to go through, and between that and snow melt, there's going to be substantial flooding up in a lot of this area in Oswego County and a few other places too. So I go fishing up here sometimes. I know my buddy Shane Muckey has been paying a lot of attention to all that up in this area as he knows the entire area like he knows the back of his hand. I mean, it's amazing. And by the way, if you're into fishing, good fishing, this is a great area to come up to in the late summer and fall for salmon and also for steelhead and brown and browns that show up too. Well, a lot of the tributaries here off of Lake Ontario offer excellent fishing. Okay, so that was my ad for that. Let's show you what's going on the satellite loop this morning. And you can see this big upper air feature here is just sitting in the northeast. We can't get into the dry air that's over the Great Lakes and covers much of the southeastern United States. The dry air is going down here in this direction behind the storm. So until it really pulls out to the northeast, we won't be able to get into the dry air. And by the way, tonight, if you're into astronomy, Jupiter will be at its closest point to the Earth. So if skies clear out, you'll get a pretty good view of that. So have your telescopes ready for some good viewing of the planet Jupiter. Okay, and there's more information on that on my Facebook page, meteorologistjoechaffee.com. I'm sorry, meteorologist Joe Chaffee on Facebook. And you can take a look at that. Okay, so that takes care of the east. When we go out to the west, we've got this big storm that's coming into the Pacific Northwest. Look at that well-defined swirl here on the satellite view. This is a pretty intense storm that's moving in to the Pacific Northwest, and we've got moisture coming up through California and on up into Oregon and Washington and sweeping up into southwestern Canada. And the radar's pretty busy out in the west. We've got rains across a good chunk of California, not in the south, but certainly in central and northern California. And you can see these waves of rain that are coming into Oregon and Washington, and with rains and mountain snows up in the areas further east in eastern Washington and northern parts of Idaho as well. So we'll be taking a look at what that storm means for the longer term. Now, here's the upper air. We're going to start with the upper air today because I want to show you this is a very, very intense feature. And here's that very, very intense feature. You got this ridge that's in the middle. So until the upper low gets out of the way, we're getting this very cold cyclonic flow around it. The air is unstable, so you wind up with a lot of cloud development, and you also wind up with showers. But this is all going to progress eastward. So when that pulls out, that ridge goes east, and this system moves inland into the west, and that's where all the action is going to wind up being for a little while as the trough comes into the west. If you look at how the upper low reacts, by tomorrow it's up in eastern Canada, and this is tomorrow afternoon. So the ridge now is in the runs from Texas up to the Great Lakes. The trough is offshore, so now tomorrow we finally start to get into that drier air. Now this here is also the beginning of some warm air, and that is going to be coming eastward. And of course, you have this trough now in the western part of the United States, which is going to favor a ridge building in the east. And in fact, as we starting on Sunday, we're going to see this warm up begin and last at least through Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're going to probably have to deal with a cold front coming through. And you can see how the flow goes from southwest aloft to more westerly. So that's going to allow that front to pass by. But overall, the action appears to be in the west. So once we get through the latter part of next week and go into Easter weekend, we've got this really strong ridge that's forecast to build in the east. That's going to mean for some very warm weather for Easter weekend, and very nice weather, in fact, while the west is going to have its issues with weather systems continuing to move inland. So we'll take a look at how this plays out on the surface map, and you will I'll back it up. We're getting to the time of year. It's going to get quiet as these we get fewer and fewer storms, and of course the weather events are going to become much more convective in nature until we get closer to hurricane season. But here's that deep storm in the west. The pressure in this surface storm coming into the west is actually lower than the pressure of the surface storm that's departing in the east. But this got pretty deep yesterday, down into around 980, 978. So I mean, the storms themselves, you basically could say that we've got two major storms on both coasts with nice weather covering much of the middle part of the U.S. And here's that as we go on Sunday, that southwest wind, that west-southwest flow is going to start Sunday afternoon. So we'll be in the 60s here over a good chunk of the area, some 70s further south, and then Monday and Tuesday are going to be just two great spring days with temperatures in the 70s, probably even some 80-degree readings are going to start showing up. Meanwhile, in the west, just to back it up a little bit, there's that major storm that comes in. We have another system that's coming in early next week that's a lot weaker, that only affects northern Oregon and Washington. And the weather systems you can see across the United States become pretty weak. There's no major developments here. We've got some scattered convective activity from time to time later next week. But here's that front, by the way, for Tuesday. It's weak, but it's there. I'm sorry, this is for Wednesday. The front comes through sometime late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. There's some slightly cooler air behind it. You've got, the warm air gets suppressed to the south. This is going to be typical for this time of year. You're going to still have weather fronts come through from time to time, obviously. We're not, anywhere. This is not late June, early July. So we got a ways to go yet. And once that goes by, there's another front that comes through on Friday with a bit of a high that starts to build in for the beginning of Easter weekend. And then the second part of Easter weekend looks like it's going to be warm with that big ridge in the eastern part of the United States. Going longer term, we don't see any big storms on the horizon. There'll be some activity from place to place and from time to time, but I'm not seeing anything that really says worry, okay, if you want to put it in those terms. We'll look at the upper air very fast for the wider view and just take a look at what the overall pattern is like. It continues to look, very much like a typical spring pattern. So, you're going to get these, and it's progressive, so everything moves from west to east. So when we go through next week, the flow from Canada is reasonably cut off from moving down. So, most of that colder air is continuing its retreat to the north, but you've got this, trough in the west and a tendency for ridging to want to develop in the east. This is the one system that's coming down for, later next week with another cold front, but that's all that will be. And going forward, that ridge comes in, gets flattened out, then tries to build back again. And then we have some kind of system into the Great Lakes when we are moving toward now the last week of April. So at least after this very stormy period of the last month, the weather is calming down, which is a good thing. So we'll get to at least enjoy some nice spring weather. And of course, fishing season started here. And that means I get to go out and do a little fishing and relax and enjoy myself. A little bit of downtime is good. So anyway, check out the latest weather posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Just to remind you about that thing with Jupiter, go to my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, Cioffi, and you will find a couple of posts that I have concerning that. And skies are clear where you are tonight. You should get a good view. Angry Ben has all the latest on the warm-up for New York City. on nycweathernow.com. And if you're new to my YouTube channel, welcome aboard. Do please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button on the channel page, and you will get notifications when new videos come up, which is at least once a day. And the subscription is absolutely free. Doesn't cost you anything to be a subscriber to my YouTube channel. So everybody have a great Friday, and I hope you have great plans for the weekend.